Good morning, everyone, especially to Dr. Lawrence Anthony U. Doliente. We are the Group 1 and our assigned topics are all about learning to read in another language, learning to read in the first language, and the principles of teaching reading. In this lesson, we can identify the importance of learning the first language, the second language, and so on. Also, to have an in-depth understanding of the principle of teaching reading and its effective way of reading instruction. This is our main objectives for this discussion. Number 1, to identify the importance of learning to read in the first and another language. Number 2, to elaborate the components in the first language literacy. And number 3, to introduce the key principles in effective reading instruction. I am Miss Rhea Jane Donisa, and with me are Sir Arden Fusin and Ma'am Angela Borromeo. Good day, everyone! To explain to us the learning to read in another language, we have Sir Arden P. Fusin to start our reporting.
Thank you, Ma'am Ria. So today, we will be discussing about learning to read in another language. So this is our lesson outline. First, we will learning what is learning. Second, what is reading. And the third is technique to read in another language. So first, let us define what is learning. So ano nga ba ang learning o pagkatuto? According to the dictionary, the learning is deep and long-lasting learning involves understanding, relating ideas, and making connection between prior and new knowledge, independent and critical thinking, and ability to transfer knowledge to new and different contexts. Another definition of learning, according to Bransford Brown and King, learning involves ongoing, active process of inquiry, engagement, and participation in the world around us. So ito yung kahulugan ng learning na talagang kailangan nating ma-involve, kailangan nating ma-engage or mag-participate para malaman natin kung talagang tayo'y natututo. So isang paraan para malaman kung tayo natututo ay kaya natin itong i-apply sa ating paligid o kaya nating i-apply in our real life situation. So that is learning. Now, what is reading? Okay, so reading is a faceted process involving word recognition, comprehension, fluency, and motivation. Learn how to read or integrate the facet to make a meaning from print. So, batay dito sa kahulugan na ang pagbabasa ay ang pagkilala ng mga simbolo na makikita sa mga talaan. So, kailangan rin sa pagbabasa ay meron kang natutunan. Kaya mo i-comprehend kung ano yung mga nasusulat. So, that is reading. Okay? So, next, other definition of reading. Reading is making meaning from print. It requires that we identify the words in print, a process called word recognition. So this is reading. So we need to recognize the word from the print. So example, what is the meaning of reading? Understanding the meaning of story. So you need to understand that one. So para matawag siya natin na reading. Reading, and then kasalukuyang natututo. Okay, so second is construct and understanding from them, a process called comprehension. So after you recognize the print in the reading materials, you need to understand what is the meaning, or you need to comprehend the message from the print that you have read. Okay, and last is the coordinate identifying words and making meaning so that the reading is automatic and accurate. After comprehension, kailangan din nating i-identify, i-coordinate, idugtong-dugtong natin yung ano nga ba yung ibig ipagkahulugan ng mga salitang nababasa natin sa ating mga binabasa para ma-achieve natin ang fluency. So ito ang tinutukoy sa pagbabasa. So ngayon naman, alamin natin kung ano yung mga technique, what are the different technique to read in another language. Kasi nga naman, pag sinabi ting another language, bago, hindi tayo familiar. So kailangan nating matuto kung ano yung mga technique na dapat nating gamitin para mas madali tayong matuto sa pagbabasa ng another language. Ito ay ayon kay Thomas More Delvin. Okay, ang unang technique, the first technique is start out a bit easier than might expected. So you need to start in the easier. Or for example, before you read a novel, you must read first a poem, or you must read first a story for child, or mga kwentong pambata para mas madali mong maunawaan bago ka dumako doon sa mga babasahing may mga komplikadong salita or complex word para mas madali mong maintindihan yung mga binabasa mo. Huwag kang magsimula doon sa mahirap. Magsimula ka doon sa mga madadaling babasahin, or yung mga pambatang babasahin na mas madaling mong maunawaan. So second technique is the choose stories you know already. Kasi pag alam mo na yung kwento, alam mo na rin yung concept nito. Alam mo na kung ano yung mangyayari. So pag sa ganitong paraan, pag nagbasa ka ng kwentong alam mo na, gamit ang ibang lingwahe, ay maunawaan mo ito. Madaling mo nawaan yung kahulugan ng kwento kasi nga alam mo na yung story. Kahit na ibang lingwahe yung gamit, another language or other language yung ginagamit doon sa kwento, pero maunawaan mo siya kasi alam mo yung flow ng story. So it can help you to easily understand what is the meaning of the words in the different language. That is the second technique on reading in another language. A third technique is keep a dictionary by your side. Ito yung pinaka dapat nating gawin. Kailangan nating magkaroon ng isang dictionary o maraming dictionary sa ating tabi. Kasi pag when we read a complex word or very difficult to understand word, we need to check it in the dictionary. What is the meaning of that? So, it can help you to para madali ka lang matuto. Hindi mo ka na kailangan mag-search, saan ka pumunta para hanapin yung kahulugan nito. Magbukas ka na lang ng dictionary kasi palagi kang may dictionary dala. So, isang halimbawa nito is yung when nasa college tayo, yung nagsasalin tayo sa English, yung nagsasalin tayo ng mga tula na galing sa English hanggang isalin sa Filipino, nakakatulong talaga sa atin yung paggamit ng dictionary kasi nga naman nabibigyan tayo ng ideya kung ano yung mga dapat na salitang gamitin para rito. So, ganoon din siya sa pagbabasa. Nabibigyan tayo ng mga ideya kung ano yung kahulugan ng mga salita sa ating mga binabasa. Next is start a language journal and collect vocabulary. So ito naman yung talagang goal natin why we must learn another language. We need to collect a new vocabulary or new group of words. So it can help us by making a journal. So makakolekta og new vocabulary by making our journal. So every time we read, atong i-shut down, atong ilista, kailangan nating ilista yung mga bagong salita na natutunan natin, or halimbawa, naka-encounter ako ng isang salita na napakahirap at naalaman ko yung kanyang kahulugan. So kailangan ko yung ilista kasi nga talagang tatatak yun sa aking isipan na ito yung kanyang kahulugan, or kung may encounter ko siya ulit tapos nakalimutan ko yung meaning niya, tignan ko na lang yung ginawa kong journal para malaman ko kung ano yung ipagkahulugan ng salitang yun. So yun ang mga about sa technique and of reading in another language. At ito ang panghuli, read the book aloud. So bakit? Why we need to read the book aloud? So it can help us to remember what are the meaning of words nga natong gibasa. For example, 'di ba kung mag-memorize ta og mga poem or kanta, ato siyang isinggit or ato siyang kantahon og kusog para mas madali nato siya ma-remember. So it's like pareha gyapon siya sa reading. Sometimes we need to read it aloud para ma-remember nato kung unsay meaning ana niya. For example, magbasa kag dictionary, gitan-an nimo ang meaning ato nga specific word, then imo siyang basahog kusog para para ma-remember mo siya, or talagang maalala mo siya ng maalala mo siya kasi nga makakatulong yung pagbabasa ng malakas. Okay, so yun ang mga different techniques of reading in another language. So now, let's proceed to the learning to read in another language is same as learning to speak in another language. Why? It is the same as we learn to speak in another language? Kasi nga naman, pag nagbabasa tayo, natututo rin tayong magsalita ng ibang lingwahe. So, katulad lang yan ng bata pa tayo, di ba? Ang alam na nating language is yung mga nasa paligid natin, yung tinuturo ng ating mga magulang. Like, I'm Ilonggo, so yun ang pinakaunang lingwaheng alam ko. Then, kailangan kong matuto ng ibang lingwahe so that na natutunan ko ito sa magitan ng mga kaibigan ko at hanggang sa gusto kong matuto pa ng ibang lingwahe at pinag-aaralan ko na ito. So, um, it's just the same with reading. So the learning to speak is just the same how to read in another language. So first is let's start with the first language or our native language. So this language is came from our home. O ito yung mga nakasanayan nating mga salita. So alam na natin itong basahin kung may makikita tayong mga nakasulat gamit ang native language natin. Second language is like from our social language. So ito yung mga language na natutunan natin mula sa ating mga kaibigan. Halimbawa, matututo akong magbasa ng mga ganitong bagay kasi nga tinuruan akong magbasa ng aking kaibigan. For example, nahirapan akong basahin yung ganitong word or specific na mga salita. Then with the help of my friends nga marunong siyang magbasa nun, natutunan ko rin siyang basahin. So yun ang tinatawag natin na social language or with the help of our with the help sa mga taong nakapaligid sa atin. So yun yung the second language. Then the third language is like a professional language. We need to learn with ourselves para matutunan natin basahin yung ganyang lingwahe. So for example, I want to learn how to read the Spanish language, then I need to study that Spanish language. I want to learn how to read the Korean characters, so I need to study how to learn the Korean characters. So that's all about, sinabi ko kanina na learning to read another language is like the same speaking with another language. Okay, so and that's all about the learning in another language. Question or clarification?
At this juncture, we will hear Ma'am Angeli Borromeo for her report on learning to read in the first language. Ma'am?
Thank you so much, Ma'am Maria. So a while ago, Sir Ardan discussed to you about learning to read in another language. And now I'll discuss to you learning to read in the first language. So learning is a complex process of discovery, collaboration, and inquiry facilitated by language. Composed of interrelated and rule-governed symbol systems, language is a social and uniquely human means of representing, exploring, and communicating meaning. Language is the primary basis of all communication and the primary instrument of thoughts. Language learning is an active process that begins at birth and continues throughout life. So, students learn language as they use it to communicate their thoughts, feelings, and experiences, establish relationships with family members and friends, and strive to make sense and order to the world. We use language to communicate with others, to establish relationships and sense of self, and to express who we are. It is the integral part of being human, so we need language. So, how do children acquire language? Do parents teach their children to talk? So, these are the basic questions that we will answer. So children acquire language quickly, easily, and without effort or formal teaching. It happens automatically whether their parents try to teach them or not. Children acquire language through interaction, not only with their parents and other adults, but also with the children. So the special way in which adults speak to small children also help them to acquire language. So every small little thing will help the child to speak the language. So, what is your first word? Do you still remember it? So, imagine yourself when you are 8 months old. So, you cannot recall. So, because it is the non conscious process by which the child acquires a language. All children have the capability of learning any language as their first one. There is no need to teach the language. Children acquire language through interaction with. So when do you learn to talk? Can you still remember it? So there is no one point at which a child learns to talk. By the time the child utters a single meaningful word, he or she has already spent many months playing around with the sounds and intonations of language and connecting words with meaning. Now, let's talk about mother tongue. The term mother tongue refers to a person's native language. That is a language learned from birth, also called a first language, dominant language, home language, and native tongue. Contemporary linguists and educators commonly use the term L1 to refer the first or native language and the term L2 to refer to a second language or a foreign language that's being studied. So first language we were exposed to, chronologically speaking, the first language we understand and speak. It is usually the language one first learned and language a person is most fluent. So research shows that having a strong foundation in a first language makes acquiring a second easier. Children who have solid foundation in their mother tongue develop better literacy skills in other language that they subsequently learn. So that's all about the basic background of mother tongue. Now let's go to the importance of mother tongue. So when the children develop their mother tongue, they are simultaneously fostering a whole host of other essential skills, such as critical thinking and literacy skills. It is the skills that they take with them into formal education. And research tells us that any skills and concept gained in the learner's home language don't have to be retaught when they transfer to a second language. For example, if a child has developed the ability to guess the meaning of a word through its context or to infer meaning by reading between the lines, these skills are easily transferred when they begin studying in a second language. It is much harder, however, to teach these abstract skills directly through a second language. So why start in the first language of the child? So it is also well known that a strong mother tongue foundation equips children with the skills they need to learn additional languages, allowing them to transfer their understanding of the structure of language to several new languages. So a child will understand the teacher from day one. There will be a smooth transition between home and school. They can learn better and faster and retain the knowledge longer. They can learn to read with understanding and can learn the second language better. So why start to learn to read in first language? So children will understand the words they read. They can interact with text, they can discuss the story all about, and they can read with comprehension after 2 years of primary education. So that is the importance why we need to implement the first language in the home, in home or at home. Now let's go to the key component in first language literacy. So first, recognizing sound in words. Second, connect sounds and letters. Third, reading at a good pace. This includes lots of reading, reading being modeled, repeated reading, and independent reading. Next, comprehension. Understanding the fact of the text, understanding the meaning of the text, and can retell what was read. And lastly, language development. It's all about learning new words and concepts, more complex sentence structure, and awareness of how words are used in text. So there's a role of a mother tongue or the first language in child development. A strong mother tongue foundation with the skills they need to learn additional languages, allowing them to transfer their understanding of the structure of language to several new languages. The intuitive understanding of grammar that develop when children learn their first language can easily be passed on other languages. Now let's move to the advantages in learning mother tongue. These are the advantages in learning mother tongue or the first language. First, it makes easier for children to pick up and learn other languages. Next, develop child's personal, social, and cultural identity, helps child develop their critical thinking and literacy skills, can easily adopt a better understanding on the curriculum. Skills learned in mother tongue do not have to be retaught when the child transfer to a second language. Enjoy school more and learn faster due to feeling comfortable in the environment. Self-esteem is higher for children learning in mother tongue, and parent-child interaction increases as the parent can assist with homeworks. These are the advantages of learning the mother tongue. It can the child, the parents, the school, the teacher can benefit on it. So reading is one of the most important activities that child can engage in. Through reading, children can learn new things, develop new vocabulary, and explore interesting places. Improving reading skills and developing a lifelong love for reading will also lead to them to read more often. They can become better readers as well as more motivated one. So there are three mother tongue reading tips to remember. So we should remember these tips so that we can teach the children how to learn the first language. First, text variety is important. While choice is important, variety is also important. Children need to read different type of text, including fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. In addition, they need to read books, magazines, newspapers, and resource materials. Finally, they need to read the text on different topics. For example, you may read and discuss the news, help them understand the main ideas and details in an article. Second, read aloud to your child. What One of the most important things you can do to foster success in reading is to read aloud to your child. The benefits of reading aloud are greatest when the child actively participates in the conversation or discussion about the text being read. Reading comprehension skills are transferable in any language. For example, you may ask questions that require your child to think about what they have read and ask questions that require your child to make a connection or relate to reading. Lastly, talk with your child. This one isn't about reading, but it's just an important for developing language. Engaging in talk with your child is fun and educational, especially if you're in your mother tongue. It encourages your child to think about ideas, exercise, memories, reflect on what has happened, make connection between ideas and event, tell a complete story, and give complete description. So that are the three concepts that we need to remember in teaching the first language. So that's all about the first language, the learning to read in the first language. So I hope you have the idea on how to integrate the first language in home, at school, and
At this time, I am going to discuss the key principles in effective reading instruction. It was adapted from the book of Irene C. Fontas and Gay-Sue Pinel. So this is the example of their books, Literacy Continuum and Guiding Readers and Writers. And they have this framework, the FMNP text level. So from this framework, if you are not familiar with this, it entails A to Z level. So, sa unang pagkakakita ninyo, malamang sasabihin nyo, A to D lang ba ang kailangang matutunan ng kindergarten? Or ang Y at saka Z sa high school pa ba natututunan? So, hindi po iyan yung ibig sabihin ng framework na ito. Kundi, sa letter A po niyan, kung saan ang level na yan ay kindergarten, yan po yung level kung saan ang ipapabasa lang po natin or ipapakita natin sa ating mga estudyante is mga simple factual at saka mga animal fantasy, and of course, kinakailangan pa natin ng books or picture books for that level. Kung saan hindi lamang sila nag-i-imagine, kundi may nakikita din po silang mga larawan. At saka sa level Z naman po, sa level po na yan, they can now give their conclusions, they can now give their opinions and recommendations based on the text they have read. Yun lamang po ang iilan sa mga halimbawa ng level ng FNP text level gradient according to Fontes and Penel. At this time po, I'm going to discuss the key principles in effective reading instruction. So number 1, students learn to read from reading continuous text. So children gain fluency from reading continuous text. One of its benefits leads them to expose to variety of words or unique words, and they get more excited because they didn't repeat what they have read the other day. So when you say continuous reading, it includes reading different text every day, but it is continuous or patuloy po natin silang pinapabasa araw-araw. Mayroon lamang po silang iba't ibang story na babasa. So from that po, matututunan po nilang i-differentiate ang kanilang nabasa ngayon mula sa kanilang nabasa kahapon. O di kaya magkakaroon sila ng comparison na yung binasa niya ngayon, mayroong pagkakahawig mula sa binasa niya kahapon. Kasi every time na na-exercise po yung yung reading nila, mas nagiging fluent po sila at mas nakakapag-isip po sila ng mas malalim dahil na-expose po sila sa malawakhang pagbabasa. And they need to a massive amount of practice solving words on the run while maintaining the meaning. Dahil nga po na-expose sila sa iba't ibang babasahin, natututo sila ng bagong mga language or mga bagong ideya, samantalang alam nila yung mga meaning or alam nila yung kahulugan ng kanilang binasa mula nung nakaraan. Then students need to read high-quality text to build a reading process. Of course, they need to engage in the text in their own reward. So, kinakailangan po, yung pinapabasa natin sa kanila is yung mga literatura, mga history, at saka iba't ibang po na mga educational write-ups para mas makatulong po ito sa kanilang vocabulary. Sinasabi nga po, the entire collection should be of literary quality, offering students captivating and well-written texts that they will enjoy and remember. Kasi kung yung binabasa po nila ay tama yung grammar, yung binabasa po nila ay may kabuluhan, malamang yung makukuha nilang knowledge mula doon ay mas malalim or mas magagamit nila sa kanilang pag-aaral. Dahil nga, yung babasahin na yun ay mapapakinabangan talaga at makahulugan. So, maaari nilang i-expand ang kanilang babasahin hindi lamang sa literatura or hindi lamang sa panitikan, kundi maging rin po sa matataas na level na pagbabasa. Next po. students need to read a variety of texts to build a reading process. So, as they encounter texts that make different demands, students become more flexible. So, they get more excited and they get more knowledge about it. So, hindi lamang iisang genre ang ipapabasa sa kanila, kundi maaring mayroong story na nakakalungkot, mayroong story na masaya, mayroon ding story na kung saan sila yung magbibigay ng ending. Nang sa gayon, magkaroon din po sila ng malawak na bokabularyo at magamit po nila ito sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. So kung ano po, nakakabasa sila ng mas marami or mayayamang mga salita, maaari po nila itong magamit kapag sila ay pupunta na sa another level ng education. At kapag ano naman po, nakakabasa sila ng iba't ibang mga genre, malamang mai-exercise din po ang kanilang emotion dahil nga hindi lang puros masaya yung nababasa nila, hindi lang puros fantasy, kundi mayroon ding time na nakakabasa sila ng history, ng pambata, meron ding time na kung saan nag-i-enjoy lang sila, may time din na yung pagbabasa nilang yon kinakailangan nilang gamitan ng mas malalimang pag-unawa or pag-iisip. And of course, ang pang-apat po dyan, students need to read a large quantity of text to build a reading process. Students must do a lot of reading every day in order to make progress at a grade level pace. The more text they read, the more information they have to bring to their reading. Dahil nga po mas marami na silang nalalaman dahil sa kanilang pagbabasa, so mas marami na rin po silang masasabi or mas marami na rin po ang maaari nilang ikwento sa kanilang kaibigan or kung may topic naman po sila na may topic sila sa eskwelahan, may ikaka-share din po siya dahil nga yung mga yon ay nabasa niya na. O di kaya yung mga ganong eksena na natatapik nila sa eskwelahan ay napagdaanan niya na dahil nga nagbabasa siya. Makaka-share na din siya ng knowledge dahil marami siyang nabasa at yung mga babasahing nabasa niya ay makakatulong din sa kanya bilang estudyante or bilang bata o di kaya bilang isang mamamayang Pilipino. Dahil nga yung mga bata ngayon, mas natututo kapag alam nila kung ano yung totoo. And number 5, students need to read different texts for different purpose. So may pagkakataon naman talaga kapag nagbabasa tayo, maaaring yung pagbabasa na yun ay para lamang maaliw tayo o di kaya yung pagbabasa na yun ay pampalipas oras lamang. Meron ding pagbabasa na kinakailangan dahil requirements sa school. Meron ding pagbabasa na ang pagbabasa yun is skimming lamang o di kaya scanning lamang. So, yun po yung iba't ibang mga purpose na ating nagagawa kapag nagbabasa tayo. So, ganun din po sa mga bata. Kinakailangan na kung magbabasa sila, hindi pilit, kundi dahil may purpose sila. At dapat alam nila kung ano yung purpose nila, bakit nila yun binabasa. So, already reading involves using strategies like decoding words and making prediction. But effective readers know how to vary what they do given the purpose they have for reading. So students may be completely engrossed in a suspenseful page turner or slowly reading and rereading the lines of a complex poem. So minsan, yung pagbabasa natin kapag tayo ay interesado, binabalik-balik natin iyon. O di kaya kapag hindi natin naiintindihan ang ating binabasa, paulit-ulit din natin yung babasahin. So ganun din yung mga bata. Kapag hindi nila naiintindihan ang ang mga binabasa nila, maaari nila yang uulit-ulitin. Nang sa gayon, ma-process ng utak nila. Pero may pagkakataon din na binabalik-balikan nila yung basahin na yon dahil nga gustong-gusto nila yung linyang yon batay sa kanilang taste or batay sa kanilang preferences. Number 6, students need to hear many texts read aloud. So na-discuss nga po ni Sir Ardan kanina na kapag nagbabasa, kinakailangan din malakas. Dahil kapag ang mga estudyante naririnig nila kung ano yung sinasabi ng guro or ano yung sinasabi sa YouTube or yung mga parents nila mismo yung nag-guide sa kanila, mas made-develop ang kanilang pronunciation. Alam nila kung paano nga ba yung bigkasin, paano nga ba yung sabihin, dahil nga naririnig nila yon. At sa pagkakataon ding ito, mas makaka-focus sila kung ano nga ba yung meaning ng sinasalitang iyon dahil hindi sila yung nagbabasa, kundi nakikinig lamang sila. So, mas marami yung time na iintindihin na lang nila or uunawain na lamang nila yung dahil naririnig nila ito, hindi na nila ito kailangang basahin. So, hindi lang po palaging reading, 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 kundi kailangan din pong marinig nila yung mga tamang pagbigkas ng mga salita. At pampito po, students need different levels of support at different times. Kasi hindi naman palagi nasa bahay yung bata. Hindi naman palagi nasa paaralan yung bata. At hindi din palaging kasama ng bata ang kanyang mga classmates. So, students at every grade level are still learning how to read. They are encountering higher levels of sophistication as demanded by increasingly difficult text kasi nga ay according nga sa level ni Fontes and Pinel na A to Z, kung sa letter A kinakailangan pa nila ng picture, sa letter Z naman hindi na nila kailangang makakita ng picture para maunawaan yung kanilang binabasa. So ganito din po sa sa support na nakukuha nila sa parents or sa friends or sa teacher. May pagkakataon na kapag nasa bahay sila, yung parents yung kasama niya o di kaya yung ate o kuya niya yung kasama niya. May pagkakataon din na ang kailangan niya ay yung guro niya kasi nga nasa classroom siya. Pero may ibang bata rin na mas natututo kapag ang nagtuturo sa kanya ay classmate niya mismo. So yun yung mga suportang maaari nating ibigay sa ating mga estudyante or sa ating mga anak. So, hindi lang palagi na si teacher lang yung may responsibility na pabasahin ng isang bata, kundi kinakailangan din nila ng support mula sa family at saka sa friends nila as well as sa peers nila. So, number 8 or pamolo, level means different things in different instructional context. So, kung kaya't nagkakaroon tayo ng level dahil nga sa level A, maaaring mas madali ito or mas kinakailangan ng mas malawakang preparation dahil nga hindi pa masyadong marunong yung mga bata sa pagbabasa. So kinakailangan i-expose muna natin sila mula sa pinaka-simple, yung sabi ng naunang reporter kanina, pinaka-simple papunta sa pinakamahirap. Nang sa gayon, hindi sila mabigla. Kasi kung sa first pa lang na pagpapabasa natin, mahirap na text na yung mababasa nila, so malamang at malamang mawawalan sila ng interes. So kinakailangan kapag iibang level na naman, so iibang context na naman. So maaari din sa level A, ang pagtuturo lamang sa kanya ay sounds. Ngunit sa letter B, kinakailangan na mismo na siya na yung mag-produce ng sounds. So, doon na nagkakaiba yung way or level ng pagtuturo sa isang bata. And then, number 9, the more students read for authentic purposes, the more likely they are to make a place for reading in their lives. So, kung mas nakaka-relate po yung bata or yung nababasa niya ay nangyayari sa reality, so malamang at malamang magkakaroon ng interest po yung isang bata or isang tao na magbasa. Dahil nga, nai-experience niya din yon sa kanyang pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. And ang example po niyan is, halimbawa, yung setting po is dito sa Pilipinas or Filipino po yung yung mga estudyante natin. Ang ikukwento natin sa kanila is about sa snow. So makaka-relate kaya yan sila kung snow ang ating ikukwento? Malamang yung iba makaka-relate kasi nakakapanood sila noon sa mga movies. Pero how about yung iba na hindi talaga nakakapanood ng movies or hindi talaga nakakakilala ng snow. So wala talaga silang background knowledge about that or hindi nila yun ma-internalize dahil nga wala namang snow sa Pilipinas. Anong meron tayo sa Pilipinas? Meron tayong sun, rain, tapos hangin. Pero dito sa Pilipinas, hindi umuulan ng snow. Yung pipiliin nating tupiko, kinakailangan din na authentic ito or maaari nilang magamit or makaka-relate sila nito sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. And last, number 10, students need to see themselves as readers who have taste and preferences. So, in this, naman po, in these principles, kinakailangan na yung bata mismo yung gagawa ng choice niya kung ano yung gusto niyang basahin. Though may pagkakataon na tayo na teacher dahil nga kilala na natin sila, tayo na mismo ang magbibigay sa kanila ng mga task or mga babasahin. Hindi natin alam na yung naibigay pala natin, hindi nila yun hindi nila yun hindi nila yun taste or hindi sila interesado doon na mga bagay. So kinakailangan din na yung mga estudyante sila mismo ang mag-discover or sila mismo ang magde-decide kung ano yung gusto nilang basahin or anong text, anong story, anong tula ang gusto nilang basahin or anong tula ang gusto nilang sabihin. Nang sa gayon, bata pa sila, makaka-express na sila kung ano yung gusto nila. So, a teacher goal is to help students become aware of their own preferences and skills so that they take ownership for their reading lives. So, pag magkakaroon ng ownership ang isang bata, magiging achievement niya yon. Kasi ang mga bata nga, simple lamang ang kaligayahan. So, every achievement nila, malaki talaga yung niyan sa kanila, malaki yung impact niyan sa buhay nila. So, kung sila mismo magkakaroon sila ng pagkakataon or mayroon silang time to make their own preferences, so give them that freedom. Give them that time na makapag-decide naman sila para sa sarili nila, especially when it comes to reading. So that ends our presentation for today. And thank you everyone for watching our report.